戦闘モード起動。
さあさあ、今日も宇宙をきれいにするよ。最高の操縦士の実力を見せてあげる。
Hello people and welcome back to News Review. Coming off the tail of the Rurouni Kenshin collab, there is immediately an absolute flood of new content. If you are a new or returning player, I do recommend you check out my new player guide. It will help you better understand what I'm saying in the video. As always, open up the patch notes, link in the description if you want to follow along. Additionally, I'm trying out a new thing where I buy a guild stage for every 10 subscribers I hit, which will give you a diamond if it's your first time clearing it. Thank you so much for 450 subscribers. The next milestone will be at 460 subscribers, so subscribe and also join the guild, as well as Discord, both codes in the description if you want to participate and be notified of that. As you've probably seen by the stuff I've shown so far, there will be PR of an old series as well as a new series, leading to an absolutely crazy amount of new cards. I'll try my best to condense information so you won't have to read through the entire thing. Feel free to pause on any of the slides to read the full skill description. That being said, let's get started. Starting with the new independent seal Galactic Odyssey, the art direction looks like they didn't succeed in getting the rights to a Gundam collab and had to run with the concept anyway. This seal will have 1 jackpot, 1 sub-jackpot, and 4 small prizes, a total of 6 cards, which is really low compared to the average. The jackpot will be guaranteed every 30 pulls, which is equivalent to 150 diamonds, and this seal will be sticking around for quite a while until the 16th of June in fact. There will be 3 rate ups, the first one being right on release, the second one at the start of May, and the third one right before the seal closes. With all the information about the seal out of the way, let's get to the actual cards. The jackpot is a Fire Machina Montana, and she can have human and Machina cards in her team. In this form, the leader skill is geared towards direct damage, which will make sense when I go over her active skill. For her team skill, she gets all the standard stuff, does not ignore sticky notably, and doesn't actually ignore anything innately unless an active skill has been activated. Also, she is highly dependent on Machina Moonstones, which is not a problem most of the time, except if your board gets restored either by the enemy or by yourself because you needed to activate that skill. She also has additional team skills as a member. The stat boost with the sub-jackpot is actually quite substantial. For her actives, this card works off EP. She has 2 actives. For the first active, it's mainly a direct damage cannon and an EP based one at that, which is super rare. The only other card that is similar is the Black Gold Una. This kind of skill is quite good for speed farming. If that term doesn't make sense right now, it hopefully will when I release my next big video in the hopefully near future. For her second active, she mainly restores cracked positions, being the first ever Fire Machina to do so. Additionally, she also has a couple of bond skills. The one worth mentioning is the EP boost one with the sub-jackpot, which allows +2 EP when her character moonstone is triggered and not dissolved in the first batch. This skill also has a sort of conditional effect. When you dissolve 60 or more Machina moonstones cumulatively in the first batch, you switch to the other form. The main difference between this form and the previous one is that this one works more like a traditional leader instead of having a focus on direct damage. This also has a bias for cycling the skills of the series, where if you dissolve runestones, Galactic Odyssey members skill CD -1 and EPs +1. The leader skill is largely the same as the other form. I've labeled the differences in yellow if you're interested in checking that out, but there are no real major differences. This is the same team skill as before. I'm just putting this here to say that both forms have this. This form also has 2 EP based actives. The first one is quite versatile, being able to remove board hazards and generate a fixed board, as well as ignore some common shields, although I can't help but notice that this skill does overlap quite a bit with the Black Gold Pompeii. I wonder if that was a source of inspiration. For the second active, the strong part is the super damage reduction, being the first Fire Machina card to have this kind of skill. One potential problem that I do see though is that you might be forced to switch at inconvenient times, especially because it's tacked onto such a vital skill as super damage reduction. This form has the same bond skills as the other one, so I'll quickly move past that. Okay, that was still quite a lot of slides. Hopefully you're still following along. If they keep making cards that have skills this long, I'm going to start putting up Subway Surfers on the side. Moving on to the sub jackpot, the Earth Machina Skathak. She can have members of her own attribute and Machina members in the team. For her team skill, she gets all the standard stuff and some more innate ignoring, but doesn't ignore burning, and does heavily rely on fire and earth runestones, sky dropping them specifically, so if the stage has enclosed areas, this leader is stopped dead in her tracks. There wasn't really a good way for me to condense something like this, but in essence, the main points of this skill is that it gives you 3 more rows on top, like the protagonists, and clears hypnotized and windswept states of humans and machinas. If you activate it a second time, you also ignore Combo Seal and Rusna-Combo Nullifying, which is marginally useful, and any more than that, I think you're getting diminishing returns. With the jackpots out of the way, let's move on to the small prizes, which there are 4 of, and they are all pretty good. Starting off, we have the Dark Machina Kepler. He remembers the board across 2 rounds and skydrops and converts the recorded board, similar to Corrupted Chaos, which I recently discovered is actually quite a good card. Even as a bond skill with CD reduction, which makes this card even better. The bond skill is with another small prize, in fact the next one coming up, so you won't have to worry about getting like a jackpot or something like that. Next we have the Water Machina Laura. This is the card I was talking about. Ignoring step damage is surprisingly not a rare skill within, water or even within the game. However, amplifying direct damage is a very rare skill, and times 5 is quite insane, especially for speed farming once again. Next is the Light Human Rosalind. This active has a lot more words in it, but most of it is card names, so I didn't feel the need to condense it myself. And I've just realized I put the cards in the wrong order, as opposed to how they're put in the news, whatever. Essentially, she is just here to give Montana support to break quintet attack shields and cross-shaped shields, and not useful anywhere else. Lastly, we have the Fire Machina Nuada, the first ever Machina to ignore death damage, and the second ever Machina to have the skill of After Attack Burst, both relatively rare skills. Overall, this card ignores a bunch of shields that aren't that common, but you'll be happy to have this card when you do run into them. In addition to the new seal, we also have a new event called Battle Cruiser Project, where you collect pieces to fill in puzzles, and this also comes along with an associated card, whose skill level will depend on how far you get in the event. The associated card is the Water Machina Gamma, and I just wanted to take a second to appreciate the active skill name. Normally I don't pay attention to stuff like that because it's named something cringe like World Destroyer, but this is just named Aerospace Engineering. That's not really the name of a move, that's a field of academic study. Anyway, apart from the funny active skill name, this card is probably only good for the fact that it stops Skydrop, and that is a very niche use case. There will also be a series-specific Dragonware, because of course there is. The Dragonware skills aren't bad, extending movement time by 2 seconds and giving good attack boost upon skill activation and dissolving Machina runestones. The craft skills are also pretty good, having the coveted enemy CD +2, just like Chaos's craft. Moving on to a free card, we have the Light Machina Theta. This is a challenge stage card mainly meant to support the Galactic Odyssey series, and it does that just fine. But the other thing that it does is that it globally ignores equal combo shield, which is quite rare and especially good for speed farming. Here's why I normally have the card rankings, but the scheduling team at Matt had decided it would be a good idea to have the PR of the Xian at the same time as a new series coming out, so this video is probably going to be double the length of a normal one. At the very least, they finally learned their lesson in not separating the PR of a series by like a month, since the other half will be PRing next week. The 8 Xian have their own team skill as members in the team, where they deal additional damage to elf and demon enemies, and also get a damage multiplier on enemies when they activate their actives. Additionally, there is also a ×2 stat boost to those cards when Trio is in a team with any 8 Xian members. Starting this series off, we have the Earth Machina Li Tiaguai, who just has more multipliers than before in the leader skill. When the leader and ally are both Li Tiaguai and you have 4 or more 8 Xian members, you get a boost in attack, and the leader gains quintet attacks, which can solve quintet shield. As a leader, he does rely on Skydrop quite a bit, since he does Skydrop as a Thoth style, but it's also tied to the activation conditions of ignoring some shields. Most of the time this won't be a problem, but there can be cases where this kind of team skill is a terrible matchup against certain shields. One thing that I didn't write on the slide is for every elf or demon present, the character is CD -1 because it's not that useful and I don't want to repeat it for every character, but it is there on every 8 Xian's active for your information. For his first active, it's a wave skill like before. Ignoring anti-runestone shield is actually quite nice, but he is actually the second Earth Machina to do so after the Earth Machina Yanxi. The second active is totally new if I remember correctly, and he is now the first ever Earth Machina to ignore Puzzle Shield. The conversion trail will probably be a hindrance more than a boon, but that's just my opinion because I find conversion trail actives to be kind of, messing up your board most of the time. Moving on to the fire god Cao Guoju. Sorry, how the frick do you pronounce that? I originally got excited about the whole team launching non-attributive attacks, but then I realized that a lot of cards that can do that now. I guess my brain is still stuck in the era where only Yggdrasil could do that. Shout out to you if you remember that time. That being said, it is still useful, so I'd say that they did make this card slightly more usable after the PR. The same can't really be said for the fire god Zhongli. His only use is in 8 Xian teams to ignore scorching areas. This card was useless before, so at least they gave him one very limited use after the PR. Moving on to the water human Lan Caihe. He is the token unlocker for the series. Not much to say apart from that, since there are already a large number of water human unlocking cards before him. We're also getting 4 new Steeple of Sunrise Chronon cards, which will hopefully come along with more marbles and blank cards. I don't think Madhead did a very good job of promoting these initially, but to fix that, honestly just give a semi-consistent way to farm marbles, and I'm sure these will become more important and pick up on the use rate. The effects on the cards are also becoming better. Of note is the 2-star card Between Dreams and Reality. Not sure who's on there, but it ignores scorching areas. And the 3-star card with Trio on it. That one prevents locking, ignores fixed combo shield, and ignores percentage damage reducing resistance. We also have a new battle pass card, a light god Dipankara. His main use will be to launch a large number of non-attributive attacks. Not sure where that's useful, but I'm sure someone will find a use for him in the future. Finally, we have a super skill area card, the super skill arena card, typo, that I made, not Madhead. The Earth Demon Unknown Creature, who generates an absurd amount of Earth Runestones. If all skills are uninterrupted, it adds up to 90 Earth Runestones across 3 boards. Why you would ever need this many Earth Runestones is beyond me, but once again, it might be useful someday. That was all the new cards. Hopefully you're not asleep by now. For my ranking of the new seal cards, I think Montana is worth the price tag if you need a Machina leader, but if you have the second wave Miku cards, you're probably fine. Skathak is not a bad leader in her own right, but I think she'll get quickly outclassed and her playstyle is quite time consuming. Honestly, the cards that are the most bang for your buck are these small prizes. Even if you're not going for Montana, I would highly recommend just pulling a little, getting the 3 that are not the light one, as each and every one of them is way more useful than your average small prize in my opinion. I won't be ranking the 8 Xian cards since it is not a good idea to invest in old cards as always, but if you already have them, it could be a good idea to PR them and relive the glory days where using them was actually not that bad. The free cards this week aren't that bad either, but also aren't explicitly good. They all kind of fall into the category where there could be a potential future use case, so it's definitely a good idea to grab at least one of each and farm them if you have the resources to do so. Moving on to the celebration events, the returning ultimate card this time is the Water Beast House, a card that I've never used, so you can beat the stage once and be on your way. That's it for this week's news review. Leave a like if you liked it, comment below if you have anything to say to me, and subscribe or like in general. It really helps the channel out, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!